Again, this is how to go from 0 to $1 million a month. Okay. All right. So the first phase is just literally from 0 to $40,000, right? Or I would even say $50,000. And this is where most people are going to start. This is also where most people get stuck. But this section is just all about creating your offer. I'm going to make a whole nother one of these presentations on creating offers, but it's all about creating an offer so good that people will feel dumb to say no, or creating your Godfather offer, creating your irresistible offer, all these things. And it is a big deal, and it's pretty much where everybody starts. I will emphasize, though, the market will tell you the most if your offer is good or not. In phase 1, from 0 to 40K per month, the only focus that you should be doing in this initial stage is to figure out what offer is going to convert someone who has no idea who you are into a high ticket client. Okay, so in the beginning, you're going to start by basically usually doing the work, right? There's a lot of people just want to skip to just being a consultant and being a coach. You can do that. But from what I've seen, you usually have to have a skill, right, that is really dialed in. And in order to get really dialed in, you usually have to perform a service. Okay, so you're either going to have a agency, right? You help marketing companies. You help blue collar companies get leads. You help coaches get sales. Blah blah blah. Or you'll have a coaching and / consulting offer. Okay, so if it's an agency, I recommend you charge about $3K per month. If it's a coaching business, you can charge $4K and up. Okay, those seem to be the good levers to start with and the good price to start with. This is the easiest way to scale, and you want to move fast to have a demand in your offer. And in other words, find product market fit. Okay, so the biggest way that I've found this is you're going to write your offer out. You're going to write it over and over and over. Maybe you use ChatGPT, how to find the right offer. And then you're going to start posting it in the Facebook groups. And you have a good offer if whenever you post it into forums or Facebook groups or groups of your clients, and you actually get people responding and dropping comments and are interested, that's when you have a good offer. And then obviously if they vote with their dollar and they actually pay you, then you have a good offer. Okay, so how do you make a good offer? Here's kind of the framework. So you're gonna have a niche, right? The more dialed in your niche can be, the better. Next, you're gonna go over the metrics. Is it going to be money? Are you saving people time? Whatever you do, right? And then the volume, how much, and then the time frame, and then the guarantee. Okay. Example, attention coaches, niche. Do you want to make more money? Metric. What if I promise to get you 15 new high quality leads in the next 30 days or you don't pay? Boom, 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 boom. I checked all those off. Okay. And then that's how you can really make a good offer. Okay. So it starts niche, metric, volume, time frame, guarantee. Right. And you can do multiple offers to start. Why have multiple offers? Because the market will tell you which is the best offer. The market will vote with their dollars if your offer is good. So you want to try different angles, different ways of testing. And there's sometimes you're going to have an offer that just crushes it, and you're not going to know why it crushes it. You're not going to know what it is about that offer, but the marketplace will vote with their dollars, and that will be the one that you should try and scale. Okay. And at least go further with. You want to ensure that your offer you create is always built off the market's pre-existing desires and not based on what you want to offer. Now, you do have to have some love for the work you're doing. Okay. I did this multiple times where I've started a business that, yes, it made me a lot of money, but in the end, it was a waste of time because I never really wanted to go the distance. Okay. I did want to go the distance, but then I started working with the clients and I started doing the work day in and day out, eat, sleep, and did it all day. And I ended up not liking it. Okay. So you do have to do that. You do have to learn from those sort of things. And I'm telling you, got to have something that the market wants, but also something that you can commit to for the long haul. Okay. You don't have to love it. We have to like it enough to do it every day. During this phase, again, from 0 to $40,000, your main focus needs to be generating sales calls and taking sales calls. The more sales calls you can do, I'm doing a phone like I'm old, but it's usually Zoom, the better. Okay. You want to do like 100 sales calls, and you just want to improve your pitch, keep talking to the market. You are literally the tip of the spear, right? Booking your own calls, doing your own sales calls, and trying to close deals. Okay. And trying to get people to pay you money for what you have to offer. You'll be able to generate sales and having the most attractive offer and running ads. Okay. And I will do ads for people if you guys are trying to actually scale and build like a coaching business. It's done for you. I'm giving you all the information for free, but if you want me to do the ads for you and help you make ads that convert, let's run it. In the beginning, right now, what I'm seeing in the marketplace is Instagram follower ads. Okay. They're so freaking simple. You literally just make a whole bunch of creatives, right? All with your offer. I even recommend just like a really like short 5-second video with text over it. Okay. Or really in-depth videos calling out your niche, pitching people with your offer. But instead of doing a whole VSL funnel or anything, you just run follower ads on Instagram. Okay. You boost your posts. You spend like $50 a day. You boost these posts, and then once you have a winning one of these follower ads, every time you get a new follower, you DM them. You DM everybody until and then you start talking, you start pitching, and then you book calls that way. That is the easiest way to get started when you're going from 0 to 40. Next thing that I've been seeing that works really well is going to be just DM ads. So you run DM ads on Facebook. The other option is you just make a ton of content and you just try and go viral, but I don't recommend that. I recommend you do a little bit of ads to make your life a lot easier. And then the final thing that I would say starting out is make a VSL funnel. I do all this for my clients, and that's for you, but I'm just dropping some nuggets that when you're starting out, I really recommend doing follower ads because they're cheap. They're super effective. You're building an asset, even though Instagram, I don't know, I just got blocked on Instagram, so I had to make a bunch of Instagram. So it's not that great of an asset, but it still is really good. Okay. There's a lot of other ways. You can also do cold email. You could do LinkedIn, Dripify. You could just be posting in Facebook groups and forums and delivering lots of value and content. Okay. That's how you go from 0 to 40K in the beginning. But ads are going to be your best way because it's repeatable, and it's a repeatable way to get sales calls every single day. That you're in complete control of, which means it's scalable. Number 2 are these 2 things when you're doing this is, how do I set up a system that books calls? And then how do I take sales calls repeatedly? Should get you to $40,000 very, very easily. And we're talking $40,000 a month just from doing sales, just from making money, just from going. What's also important to note, and that I highly recommend doing, is the sales. You should be doing all the sales calls yourself. Okay. The other thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to have to figure out the fulfillment as well. Okay, really, when you're going from 0 to 40, you're going to be doing the marketing, you're going to be doing the sales, you're going to be doing the fulfillment. You're wearing all the hats, okay? And that's totally fine. And whichever one you really are worse at, okay, is what you're going to hire first. What I recommend you do is I recommend you hire someone to help you do the fulfillment on the back end, okay? And the fulfillment is just getting the client the results, right? So if you're like a video editor, you're doing the video editing on the back end, but eventually you're going to hire someone to help you do the video editing on the back end, right? If you're a coach, you're going to basically be doing the fulfillment on the back end, but you need to hire someone to onboard and get them started, right? So you can focus on sales. And again, I recommend you do the sales in the beginning because you are the authority. You are the face of the brand. The sales should be easy. Now, if you suck at sales, then it's the other way. You focus on building the business and you hire a closer, but nothing will kill a business faster than hiring a bad closer. Nothing in the world will end your business and burn more money than having a bad closer. So you don't want a closer until you have a good system to close. Okay. And sometimes you could have the best closer ever, but you don't have a script. You don't have a way to get book calls, right? So that's why you need to do that in the first part. And you can also hire freelancers. You can hire contractors. You can bring partners up. But you're going to have to hire someone to help you with the fulfillment, but you still have to do the fulfillment. Otherwise, your clients aren't going to get a good result and your business isn't going to go anywhere. Okay. So that's kind of what I recommend for phase 1. Create an offer that strangers will pay you for. And then that's how you can get up to at least $40,000 a month all by yourself. After that, you'll probably need a little bit of help. Okay. Phase 2, we're going to talk about going from 40K to 100K per month. All right, only enter phase 2 once you have an offer that converts strangers into high ticket clients. Again, if you don't have that offer, start over, go back, and you might even be able to get to $100,000 a month without a really crystal clear offer. But you will be getting clues as to what that offer should be at that point. Okay, but you have to have a great offer that absolutely turns strangers into high paying clients. Assuming you have an offer, there are now 3 systems you have to build in order to get to $100,000 a month. You need a consistent and repeatable way to generate sales calls. Okay. This is, again, going back to what I was telling you in the beginning. When you're first starting out, the follower ads are cheap. They're effective, super powerful. Now, though, that you've scaled up, I recommend you literally do it step by step. Start with follower ads where you're messaging every time you get a new follower. Then you go to DM ads, and then the DM ads come to you and you don't have to reach out to people. People will reach out to you. And then finally, I would convert to VSL. A VSL just means you have a video sales letter, and then you send people to watch the video sales letter and then book a call. Okay. It is very in depth to make an entire good VSL funnel, but it's not that hard. I do it in a weekend sometimes whenever I have a good offer, right? You can bust it out. I'll have a bunch of videos inside of that free school community if you want to do that as well. Okay. But you need a way to generate sales calls. Recommend follower ads, DM ads, and then do a VSL funnel. All right. And then basically you need a way to close these clients, right? The only way you're going to get good enough to close all these clients is by doing tons and tons of sales calls over and over and over and over and over. And then once you get really good at the pitch, you turn it into a really solid script. Maybe you hire a sales coach. And then you also probably want to hire an appointment setter, right? An appointment setter is going to be the person that makes sure people show up to your calls, right? They're going to set the appointments for you. They're going to make sure they're going to deliver them to you on a platter, and then they're going to help you follow up with people as well. And then you need a consistent way to deliver to your clients, right? If you want to get to $100,000 a month, you need to create what I call a customer conveyor belt, where you break down step by step by step everything that needs to happen for the client in order to get the desired result that was promised to them in the marketing and in the sales call. Okay. So take a look at this. If you want to get to $100,000 a month, this is what you need. All right, next, a consistent way to generate sales calls. All right, make content specifically for your ideal clients. Again, remember when we were talking about that offer? For the next, 90 days, make a video on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube Shorts, calling out to your clients specifically. Your ideal clients too, not just like your niche, but like the people you would want to work with the most. And you just make content for those people over and over and over and over. And you just rip it every day, making new content. Then you go to the IG, then you go to the DM ads, then you go to the VSL. All right. So we talked about that a little bit. Same thing, same process, super great way to build content. And then let's say you're not a video person. Well, then make an audio podcast. Let's say you're not an audio person. Well, then write a blog every single day. Okay. Just do something for your ideal client and put it out there every single day, and you'll start generating calls. A consistent, repeatable way to close deals. Do 100 sales calls, record every single one of your sales calls, and then hire a sales coach. Shout out to Austin. I think it's Medlin. We're working with him right now. He's a great coach for anybody who owns a business who's trying to generate more sales. So check out Austin, and then have them review each one of your calls, have them work with you on a script, have them go over handling objections and everything like that. And then only if you are not a good salesperson, now you can hire a closer. Okay. But again, if you're pretty decent at sales, just you want to stay doing sales calls as much as you can. All right. And I hear a lot of objections like, oh, I don't have time. Yes, you do. If you're not at $100,000 a month, you have plenty of time to make money. Otherwise, you need to check your priorities and check your time management. Okay. But once you do have a dialed in system, now you can hire a closer. But remember, like I have a graveyard of people who told me they were great closers who couldn't close a barn door. All right. And you really want to have a good closer. Having a good closer means they have some sort of magic. Okay. Not magic, but they've been through some, SHIT. Okay. They've been through the gauntlet of sales where they had to convert people. And the best way to think about sales is instead of having, wanting the most perfect prospect on earth, you want to actually train yourself to be able to turn someone who has never heard of you, who is cold to your offer, into a high paying client. Okay. So instead of always just like saying, oh, the marketing suck, oh, the leads suck. No, why don't we flip it on its head? Why can't you just turn normal people into customers? Don't you have a process to take someone on a journey to, at the end of the call, having them say, you know what, I do want this, right? That's what you want. Instead of just always saying the leads suck or whatever, maybe you just suck at sales, right? And you need to get a sales coach. All right, a consistent and repeatable way to deliver results. Write down step by step everything that needs to happen for you to get your client a result. All right, and you want it to be an experience for people. You don't want them to have a bad experience. You don't want to just like have your client pay you a bunch of money and then you put them in like a WhatsApp channel where no one replies to them, or you put them in like a dead Facebook group, right? You want it to have like a little bit of a song and dance. Like when you go to these really fancy restaurants, you'll have multiple waiters come up to you. You'll have like the food will come out with little gold speckles on it, or like they'll have little fireworks on your food, right? You want to have an experience so that you can charge more money and so that they'll refer more people, right? The best way to build a business is to have referrals, have upsells, have retreats, have ways that your customer can continue to work with you forever, right? If you get one customer and then you figure out a way to make that customer pay you every single month or every single year for the rest of your life, you will infinitely scale. So you always want to deliver your clients the best results, okay? So you want to create a customer conveyor belt, or a fulfillment system is what I call them, where you know every step of the process that has to happen for that client. And then you create a CRM, or you create a Google spreadsheet at the very least, and you move your clients through the pipeline, just like you would a sales call. Recap, phase 2, you should have your day split up between doing sales and fulfillment, as your marketing will be done by me or done by somebody else, or you'll have it constantly going. Okay. Marketing should be set up like with the VSL funnel. You should set it up, and then it should just be continuously putting calls in your calendar. You should be continuously doing sales calls and continuously working on your fulfillment. All right. Phase 3, to go from $100,000 to $250,000 a month. I call this phase productizing. All right. To make something productized means to make it scalable. Okay. It has to be ready to go, right? It has to be packaged really good, and it has to be dialed the F in. Okay. This is where masterpieces are made. Every time I build a business, I think of it like a piece of art almost, where every little system in that business gets dialed in until it is fully functional and operating like a well-oiled machine, right? That's how the cars are produced off the lot. That's how, production for e-commerce products. Your business should be the exact same way, where it is scalable, it is repeatable, and you can just basically crank up the ads and print money. Okay. So this is how you get from $100,000 to $250,000 a month. So if you've successfully completed 1 and 2, this means you have a consistent and repeatable way to close deals. If a qualified prospect joins a sales call, you can close them at least at like a 30%. And 30% is, it just depends on your price, right? But you need to try and shoot for at least 30%, if not more, to really be highly profitable. You need to have a consistent and repeatable way to fulfill for your clients, right? To get them the results. And if you close a qualified client, you need to take them through the hoops, get the milestones, and then they will receive the same result they paid for at the end of the process, right? If you don't have a good back end where you're not getting people the same kind of results, you'll start to get negative reviews. You'll start to, get refunds, and then you burn through payment processors. Your ad accounts will get shut down. So the back end is really important, just as important as the front end. But now it's time to create a consistent, repeatable, scalable way to close clients, a consistent, repeatable, scalable way to fulfill on clients. Okay. This is where you're going to make all your SOPs, right? This is where you're going to dial in the process, and it's just going to be in and out, same thing every day, like clockwork. You're just closing deals, helping people get results, closing deals, helping people get results. And this is also where you kind of start to remove yourself from the business, but you're not going to be able to be removed yet. Okay. And this is where you're going to, I've been in this position where I just feel like I'm getting stretched to my absolute limits because there's too many things that need to get done. I don't have enough help, and it just is what it is though. So you need to just take a breath when you're in that phase and just accept that that's how it goes. Okay. Being successful is not comfortable. You have to become comfortable without, have to become used to being uncomfortable is what I'm trying to say. Okay. And you will be on the verge of your breaking, and that is totally normal. All right. Hence why the outcome of phase 3 is making your consistent, repeatable process scalable. Right now we're in the process of, scaling Client Success Club. And it was kind of funny. Instead of making it more complicated, we're now trying to make it even simpler. Okay. We're trying to dumb it down. We're trying to make it so that we can go to that next level with a simpler process. Okay. So that we can make it more scalable. And I recommend this is the same phase where you cut all the unnecessary fat and you just try and make it as scalable as possible. Like one thing that's interesting is the Bogue Group, they're a funding company. They basically are on the verge of almost $1 million a month, which is insane. But they went from doing the funding for clients to just hopping on Zoom calls and walking their clients through the funding process. And because they did that switch, that's where they were able to get scalable. So instead of doing really complicated funding stuff for clients, they just basically flipped it on its head, and they just hop on Zoom calls now with their clients, and they coach them on what to do. Instantly made their business much more repeatable, much more consistent, much more scalable. Are clients getting the results? I don't know, but they're making a lot of money. So it's pretty cool, but make your business simple, make it scalable. Now, and then productizing sales. Okay. Now that you have a consistent and repeatable sales process, you can now hire a closer and install them into the already proven system. Right. And like what you'll find is you'll probably end up with one really good closer, and then you're going to struggle to find that second closer for a while. And you just have to basically rely on that one closer carrying the team, crushing it, and being the rainmaker of your company. But you want to document everything that they're doing. Everyone in your company needs to create their own SOPs. So your setters, they create their own SOPs and they write out everything they're doing so that the next time you need to hire a setter, the setter has an SOP that they can hand over. SOP stands for standard operating procedure. It's just a document that has it every step of the way. Okay, so then your setter is making their SOP, their closer is making an SOP, your content team is making SOPs, your fulfillment team is making SOPs, you as the CEO is making SOPs, your finance people is making SOPs, blah, blah, blah. And every single part of your business gets more and more crystal clear, and the clarity becomes even more impactful in this phase. And this is really what it means to have a productized business. Okay, the biggest pitfall here is that clients think they can give someone a script and perfectly implement and just start closing, right? Or you just hire someone, throw the SOP and assume that they're going to do it. The sad truth about hiring people is usually when you hire someone, you're going to have to pay them and you're still going to have to do their job until they catch up. Okay, once they catch up, then you can kind of take a break. You can back off and let them do their thing. If this isn't the case, this stage requires you to hire the right person. I can help you with that if you want. Onboard them correctly, right? So whenever you get a new person, your company culture is really important, and your onboarding process is really important. The onboarding process means like a lot of times, like when your company gets too big, you'll just hire people and you won't have any time to really like invest in them. But at this phase, every time you actually invest time in your team, you are saving yourself so much headache and so much time that you have to prioritize spending time with your team. Okay. You have to ramp them up effectively and efficiently. You got to have daily meetings and you got to productize your fulfillment. Okay. The daily meetings usually is like 30-minute sales meeting in the morning, 30-minute team meeting, and then another 30-minute with your managers and your higher up. Okay. So at least an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, Monday through Friday, when you're in this phase. Like if you're making $250,000 a month or more, you really got to have these in. And then eventually you'll hire a sales manager, and then the sales manager will run the sales team. And then you'll hire a CSM manager, and your CSM manager will run the CSM team. And then you'll just be reporting to the higher ups, and you'll have your higher up meeting maybe a couple times a week, or maybe not, whatever you want to do. Similar to the sales, you now have to start hiring your first and second client success manager to facilitate the fulfillment conveyor belt with clients. Okay, CSMs, we help business owners. We help you also get a job if you want to be a CSM. You guys are on the back end, and you need to be a go-getter, and you need to help the clients that come into the program, right? You need to be all over them, and you got to be ready to serve and go above and beyond, okay? Same as sales. You can't hire someone and expect them to do a great job right off the bat. You got to work with them. You got to have inputs and outputs. You got to have KPIs. You got to have different goals for them to hit. You got to keep them engaged. You got to give them bonuses. You got to give them your attention, right? Otherwise, they're going to do a really great job for a while, and then they're going to just fall off, right? Same with sales. Like everything in business, you have roller coasters, and people go through a lot of different emotions. But when you have the right people, it makes your life a lot easier than hiring the wrong people and then firing them and then doing it over and over. Whenever somebody joins your company, you want them to be there for a really long time. So you want them to be happy. You want them to have enough money to survive. You want them to be doing their job correctly. I really had a lot of companies where I would hire my friends and I would pay them a lot of money, and then they just honestly wouldn't do that good of a job. And it was kind of sad. I don't know why I would pay them that much money, but I wanted everyone to eat. But at the same time, the business is like the golden goose, right? So you got to take care of the golden goose. So you got to have bonuses set up. Maybe you got to have ways for people to make a lot of money, but you also got to be able to keep the business profitable so that the business can continue to produce the golden eggs, right? So that you're not over leveraged or not making any profit because you're the CEO. You need to get paid, right? Your time is valuable, and you're the one who had the vision to make this business come. Okay. This will have daily cadences, so on and so forth. What's important is I would not do these simultaneously. So I wouldn't hire salespeople and CSMs at the same time. I would hire a new salesperson, and then I would take a lot of time with that one salesperson until they're fully ramped up. Then I would go hire a CSM, and I would spend a lot of time with the CSMs and ramp them up. And you're just going to kind of go back and forth. Really, once you get past like $100, even $150,000 a month, your bottleneck is going to be your employees, right? Because you could spend more money on ads usually, and you'll be able to close deals, and you'll have all your numbers. But you will get to a point where you have too many clients for your CSMs, and then you'll have to shut down sales to catch up. It's just a crazy moment where you're scaling sales and you're making a lot of money, but then you have too many clients and you can't keep up with them. So you're just always hiring more closers, hiring more CSMs. So you just really need to dial in your process at this point. But this will allow you to take a step back once you do a good job. So first you hire the sales team, then you hire the CSMs. Now you're kind of at the point where everything is running smoothly. And, nobody really talks about this, but when you finally get to that point, it's a little weird because as a entrepreneur, you've been living in such like a panic mode and like such a desperation, right? Like every sale matters, every client matters. You're stressed out all the time. And then finally you actually have everything dialed in and there's this calm, and it's weird. So it's its own problem in itself when things actually start working, right? But it's pretty cool. But this is also where a lot of people self-destruct. A lot, like I've done it myself. You have a lot of money and you just get tired of the business, or something is wrong, and you just get unhealthy. You can also get really stressed out. You can also get kind of sick. But this is also, if you push through this part, this is where life gets really good. This is where you have those $250,000 months where you're able to buy your mom a house, you're able to travel, you're able to go do rich people shit, right? Like this is what the goal is all about. So don't self-destruct when you get to this point, is what I'm trying to get at. But now the big outcome of phase 3 should be to have both your sales and your fulfillment performing at above KPI and without needing to be involved as much, all right, as you were in phase 1 and 2. Okay, this will allow you to hit those $250,000 months. Now we're going to talk $250,000 to $500,000, phase 4. Okay, now you have a consistent, repeatable, scalable process to generate qualified sales calls, which I can help you do. A consistent and repeatable, scalable process to close clients, a consistent, repeatable, and scalable process to fulfill on clients. Okay, so phase 4 is where you will switch your mindset from being on the front lines and running your organization to now letting your team run the business. And your goal is all about making your culture and making your team win. This specifically requires 2 things. Okay, you got to do more and be better. You got to spend more money on ads. You got to hire more closers. You got to hire more CSMs. You're going to hire more operations staff, right? I recommend getting a lawyer at this point. Don't spend a ton of money on the lawyer, but have somebody. I recommend really dialing in, like have a bench of closers. I love that idea of having a bench of a bunch of client success managers as well, meaning that if we get to the point where we need to hire another closer, you already have the guys in mind, and they're doing other offers or they're doing other stuff, and you'll pull them off the bench to come up to the big leagues and make some money. Have daily calls, and you're going to develop your team, right? So at our company, Client Success Club, we're going to have a goal in April that if we hit all of our numbers, everyone on the team is going to get Rolexes, right? That's going to be pretty sick, very motivating, very exciting. We're also going to try and do, retreats at least every 6 months where we all get together and we go on a trip. We just got back from Miami where we went on a yacht and partied, and it was a beautiful, beautiful trip. But you want to develop your team and you want to develop your culture at this point. And you just are going to talk to people every day. And then this is also where, again, you're going to just dial everything in. Everything has to be properly functioning in order to get to this level. All right. Your number one focus at this stage is, again, developing your team and then building them up. For context, in the book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, Ben Howards, he says, so if you have 10 people on your team, they're going to work 20,000 hours combined, right? So that means that every time you spend time with your people, you're expanding yourself, you're cloning yourself, right? You're creating people that are going to deliver on your values to your clients. And you have to have this stuff really dialed in, because now it's like playing a game of telephone, right? You tell them to do something, then they tell someone to do something, and then it gets a little muffled, right? Whereas you need these things in place so that everyone can do their job properly. But if you spend more time with your team, you're going to have a lot less headaches and you're going to do a lot better. Okay. So this is just really all about hiring the right people, training the right people, and running your team the right way. You should also be doing a lot of recruiting and hiring top players. Recruitment is pretty easy. I mean, I recommend, have a bench, like I said, but find people in your industry. Like we will get you CSMs easily, but then have other people who have a ton of sales reps that are really good, because you don't want to hire shitty sales reps. You don't want to hire bad CSMs. You don't want to hire bad talent. You really want to hire people that are smarter than you, right? You really want to make enough money that you can hire people that are smarter than you, that can run the department better than you, right? A lot of the times also when you're doing this stuff, it's like, I would only hire people if they will do a better job than you would do doing it, right? And that's hard, but it's not that hard. And I had a lot of limiting belief about hiring people a long time ago. I just had no faith that people would do a good job. But once you get to the point where you have to hire people because you're literally like losing your mind, then you really are so grateful that someone can step in there. And even if they can only do it like 70% as good as you can, you still get all that time back. And then you can come back and you can do the next level. Okay. So you're going to have, weekly one-on-ones with everyone on your team. You're going to go through their goals. I really recommend, having one-on-ones with everyone in your company and just being like, look, how much money do you need to make? How much money are you trying to make? What are your goals? Do you have a family? It doesn't have to even be money. It can be like emotional stuff that your team really wants, like acknowledgement, or they really want a culture, or they really want to travel, right? Or they really want to do something. So you can talk to each one on your team, and you can set certain goals that if they do X, Y, and Z at a really good job, you help them buy their plane ticket, or you send them on a vacation for a week, or you buy their wife something that they've been trying to buy for a long time, right? Or you do little stuff like that, and people will stick around with you for the long haul, right? You take care of your team takes care of your clients will take care of your profits. And that's what it's all about. This is where you go deep on building a team, having leadership, and doing everything that it takes, and then just keep dialing everything in. Daily team meetings, these should be ran extremely effectively. For like your sales meetings, you really want to try and keep them to 30 minutes. Like I used to have a huge sales team of like 15 people, and I would spend an hour every morning trying to get them to do better. And it was just madness, right? Until we made it really effective. So instead of, coming in there and just letting people riff and blah, 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 like there is a time for that, but it's better to show up to the sales call, go over the calls of the day, go over their projections, right? So if they have 10 calls on the calendar, how many are they going to close? 2 out of 3. Okay, great. And then they do an end of day report where they tell you why it did happen or why it didn't happen. And then you do that every day, and you just go over notes and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be this whole big thing where everybody comes in and tells you their opinion. Okay. Once you're at 250,000 or more, a lot of your work becomes extremely boring, right? Again, like do the boring work, like Alex Hormozi says. This is where, it just becomes extremely important that you just keep going. You have to have the vision as the CEO to get through those hard, boring times. And you have to have the team all on the same page and wanting to steer the ship in the exact same direction at this point. Phase, 500 to $1 million. Up until this point, you will have had your team running sales and fulfillment without you. I'll be doing your marketing, or you'll have your marketing dialed in. You're still going to be involved in the fulfillment. Like a lot of the times, business owners get to this point and then they just think the business is going to run on its own and they don't have to do anything. But a lot of times your customers buy your offer because they want your time. They want to see your face, right? So I recommend at least doing 1 hour a week live group coaching calls with your clients so that they can see your face and so that they can feel like you're part of their world, right? Otherwise, if it's just like all these strangers, but you're in all the ads and you're in the front and you're in the YouTube videos, and then they never see you again when they join your company, it gets a little weird. Okay. So I don't recommend that. So spend time on the fulfillment at least a little bit, but also like when you're going from even $250,000 a month to $1 million, there's going to be times where you just feel uninspired. And what I tend to find to do is I'll get back and I'll go back into all these roles, right? I'll go back to appointment setting just to F around for a little while. I'll go back and do sales calls just to get my juices flowing and read some sales books. And then I'll go and do the CSM work just to figure that out. Then I'll go do the content work. And what I find is this re-inspires me for each one of these different roles in my business. And it also teaches me how I can do them better, right? It's hard to teach someone how to do anything if you've never done it yourself, right? So keep working, keep following up. Now you basically get removed though from the business, right? And you have your clients doing everything, or you have your team doing everything. And this is where you can really ramp up the volume though, because you're business is productized, your systems are dialed in, your team is locked on, and now you just need to crank up the knobs and just go as hard as they can. And then you're really just putting out fires, and that can also be very stressful. But at the same time, it's the boring work that you have to do as a CEO. You're gonna hire managers at this point too, right? You're gonna have a sales manager, you're gonna have a client success manager, you're gonna have a finance operator manager. You're gonna have all these different people, and you're just gonna talk to those people, and then they're gonna lead your teams, and it just is basically a top-down environment. Okay. Now you can really start to care about what your logo is and what your brand looks like and all that kind of stuff. But until you get to this point, there's no problem, and now you can take over. All right, I think that was it. I'll just hold for applause. I think that was super helpful. I really enjoy doing these. I'm going to do some more. How do you get to 250K a month, or how do you get to 200K a month? Yeah. So you just go through the process. I mean, so really what I recommend people do if like just to get to $200,000 a month, these are the things that you need. All right. Well, obviously you got to be able to fulfill for your clients, right? You got to be able to fulfill for $200,000 worth of clients, but really like you need one killer ad. And the way you're going to find that ad is by just testing a ton of creatives. Test. And then you're going to have one ad, for whatever reason, it just outperforms all the rest of the other ads. Okay. Then you have to get one all-star appointment setter. This appointment setter is going to show up every day, know what they're doing, set appointments. Then you need to get one rock star closer. Okay. And this closer is just going to be an absolute animal. They're probably going to have something mentally wrong with them, but they are going to be able to close deals better than anyone you've ever met. All right. And they're going to blow you away. That's how you get to $200,000 a month. Then you're going to have one CSM at least, maybe two, depending on how serious your business is, right? How hard is it to fulfill, right? You always want to have, I used to build really complicated businesses. Okay. So like when I was doing scaling coaching companies and online companies, like we were doing really complicated stuff and we just had to make it super simple. Okay. But you're going to have yourself on the back end, but then you can really easily get to 200,000 a month. So again, one amazing ad, you got to have an offer and a funnel. You got to have a really good offer, really good funnel. You got to have one all-star appointment setter, one all-star closer, one all-star CSM, and you can easily get to $200,000 a month. That's how you do it. Any other questions? Pretty much it, everybody. So I hope you learned something. I hope this was knowledgeable, and I hope, I'll see you in the next one.